Welcome back to the studio where today we're going to do something I've been looking forward to for a few weeks now, and it's going to help us shrink our anxiety through a nice artistic practice. Now, firstly, I need to undo my paper here, as you'll see. You might have known that I recently went to Mexico City. Maybe you didn't know, because why would you know? Anyways, I just went. And I found the coolest little stationery store called Donde Clara. And they had a bunch of handmade papers. And I bought some. And we're going to paint on one of those today. Now, I got a circle one. And then I got these as well as some smaller ones, which I had opened before. It's pink, which is just so cool. And then this paper, naturally, I'm going to keep into my collage drawer for, I don't know, some kind of activity. Anyway, today we're going to be using the circle one. And what we're going to do is envision that this circle paper with its lovely deckled edge, its salmony pink color, is our anxiety and our stresses. Very large, very present, very apparent. And we're going to do a Zen doodle completely informed by these outline edges over here. And as we go, moving inward and inward and inward, we are going to have a visual example of our anxiety shrinking, and we're going to intentionally release the anxiety we have as that happens. And by the time we get to the center, we're going to feel better. Now, this is whether you're watching or you are painting along, and this works with any shape. I'm just using this circle because I can't wait to. Also, because we're going around the edges, we aren't getting anything right or wrong. We're just following what's happening on the paper. So there's no opportunity to mess up. It does not matter if our lines touch or kiss because we just continue to move around them. So it's really, we're just setting ourselves up for peace. Now, what I really would like to do is this color here. However, I've tried painting on this before and it didn't quite hold. So if it doesn't work, which is entirely possible, we're just going to pivot and use a different material. I don't know what that is yet, but we can handle whatever happens. Okay, so let's give it a go. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. See how it comes up like that? Well, maybe it's fine. Let's keep going. It's going to take a few little layers in some cases, which is fine because we're actually not in a rush today. So this part is really fun because we just get to, as we go, uncover what our shape will be. There's no way for us to plan it out in advance because we can't really see it yet. It's kind of like having a piece of stone and we're carving our marble sculpture out of it. We have an idea of what it might look like. I know it's going to kind of look like tree rings, but we don't know exactly. We just kind of hope it unfolds in a way that brings us peace. So we're moving along. Also, Parmesan has come to sit nearby. She is now sitting on the other papers. Parmesan is my orange cat. And she's just really orange sometimes. So some parts are straighter than others, and what we're going to do is just completely zone out, find that creative mode, and just follow all the little divots and bits that happen. Now, some areas are going to be straighter than others, like here. That's just how it is. I get asked very often if I hand make my own paper, but I do not. I am no expert in that at all, although I'd love to learn how one day. I haven't done it in years and years, so I don't remember. And I can't tell you much about the process of how this is made. I do know, though, that it's pressed in a kind of vessel that is what the shape of the paper will be. So this pulp and paper was pressed into some round shape, and that is how it is this shape. So we're just gonna keep on moving along. These little flimsy bits on the edges are called a deckled edge, and that's what happens when you have handmade paper. It's just kind of a nice little effect. And what's fun about it being a circle too, although this can work with any shape if I haven't said that yet, is that it's kind of just like a never-ending situation. So we don't need to hold on to those feelings of progress or where we should be, how we think things should be going at this point. We're just in it. And whatever happens, happens. Sometimes when I'm anxious and I find it hard to let go of something, I try and think of what the worst possible case scenario would be. And I wonder if I could handle that scenario. And I think for here, the worst possible scenario would be I completely mess up this piece of beautiful handmade paper that I got in Mexico. And that would be really sad because I don't know the next time I'm going back there. I was very careful to travel home with it safely. This might be a better vantage point. And I only got one, so I wouldn't want to waste it. So that is the worst case scenario. However, which, not great. However, if we zoom out and think of kind of the grander scheme of my day and my life, that's really not a terrible thing to happen. Often I see people say, if I mess this up, I would crumple it and throw it away, which I think is a little bit of a dramatic way to see it because, if we mess up one picture, we just throw away or even better, recycle the paper. It doesn't actually affect what happens to us the rest of our lives. So with that knowledge about how this is going to go, I'm just going to do my best. Following these little undulations and kind of just picking back up. Every little segment needs a few layers just because the paper isn't so porous and so the paint is sitting on top as opposed to seeping in. But if we give it a nice little kind of rub, it will go back in. So that's the plan. Kind of looks like a tortilla from here, doesn't it? Now I'm hungry. But I'm having salmon for dinner, which is kind of this color, so that's a good omen. So look, we've reached the other side of our line. Every line that we do after this is going to get smaller and smaller as things shrink inwards, things being our anxiety. So this was the longest go round that it will take. Just going to even this out here. And why don't we go from this side, switch it up. I'm really liking this kind of coppery brown color on the pink. I was going for earthy tones, something simple. And I'm not really sure what I'll even do with this after. I was thinking maybe I'd list it on my website with my pieces that are available, but I might really like it, so I might just want to keep it. We'll see. So I'm gonna carry this in a little so it's a smooth exit. And here we have, oopsie daisy, the first layer of our lovely circle. Now is the time to cast your bets on where the lines will first touch. Now I'm going to start here with this little tag. And in terms of white space consistency, I'm kind of just going for as much of a white space thickness as I have in my paintbrush lines. That's always a good option because if you forget or you get kind of confused about the thickness, you can just refer to the line right next to it. So I find that's a nice reference point. However, you can do any thickness that you like. If you have shaky hands and tight lines like this are just not going to work for you, don't try and force yourself to do something that doesn't work for your body. That would be silly. You could do wider lines. Maybe you want to really challenge yourself and you want to do even tighter lines. There are no rules over here. So we're going to get all this in. And we're just completely responding to whatever was before this. So in this case, this kind of little bump of two hills, just responding without judgment and continuing our lines. This is total undulation territory. So we go like this. I had a lot to do today and I was looking forward to this moment all day because I get to just relax, play with my paints, and have a nice time winding down, transitioning myself from workday to end of day, where it's actually 5 p.m., but in my book, that's end of day, at least emotionally. I will be showering right after this, having dinner, and putting on my pajamas. So some areas need a little more of a cover than others, and that's fine. Just like humans, everyone needs a little bit of a different type of attention sometimes. So another way this is helping our anxiety, in addition to the visualization and just kind of the realization and reminder that we don't need to have control of the outcome and we're still going to be okay, is that to pay attention to all these little changes and bits that happen, we need to slow down enough to notice them and to pay attention. And as we do that, we're kind of Control Alt Delete, forcing our brains to let go of anything in there at the moment that is not serving us. And anxiety is made up of worry for things that we don't really need at this moment. I'm going to twist things around. This kind of looks like a pie too, doesn't it? Come back here. And the nice part of this too is you can stop at any point. You know, maybe you don't have more than 20 minutes to work on your art today. You can finish the line you're working on at any time, put it aside, and come back another time. Anyway, so cat hair. As pertaining to the slowing down of it all, because we're Control Alt Deleting a change of speed inside our minds, our nervous systems have a chance to reset and just kind of come back to baseline and not be in the kind of crazed state that they were when we felt and identified that we were anxious and needed to make a change. When we started this, and probably still about a bit now when you're anxious in general, your adrenaline and cortisol are pumping through your brain at lengths that we do not need at this time. adrenaline and cortisol are helpful at some times, especially if you are a caveman or woman and you are running away from a lion. Very important. But if you're just kind of wound up at the end of the day, we don't really need all those hormones in our system. And so, an activity like this, slow and controlled and textural and aesthetic, flushes our brain from those hormones that just aren't actually serving us at all at this time. Because at the end of the day, anything that you're feeling in your mind is a combination of hormones and chemicals and bits up there reacting to give you a feeling. And the purpose of exercises like this is to say, hey, brain, I actually got it for now. I am not being chased by a lion, although I really appreciate you helping me be prepared for if and when that does happen. But actually, I just had a long day, or I'm stressed about something I have to pay, or our favorite, why did I say that thing to that person? None of these are life-threatening issues. And just like the center of this, they're going to fade away as we move throughout this piece. Now that we understand what is happening in our brains and exactly why this exercise, watching or doing, is helpful, we're going to kind of shut down that conversation, and the rest of this will just be sort of guided meditation vibes. So I'm going to have moments of quiet as well, but in general, be narrating what we see on the paper, anything that really springs to mind. I don't have a script at all for this. I kind of like to just go off of what I am feeling, what I think you might need to hear. Sometimes I get a sense that someone needs to hear something specific, and I just kind of say it. So hopefully something resonates with you today, but we're going to shift headspaces into somewhere more tranquil and lullaping, like these little undulations we're making on our second ever way round our beautiful peachy salmony circle paper till we meet back up, moving around all these little bits. And I love this because the emphasis is actually not on a straight line, it's on the differences. So if it was completely straight all the way around, that would just be a little bit boring compared to how things are now. This feels much more like it was made by nature, or maybe it's heartbeats or thought patterns, but all these little fun bits that we get to play with. And like this. Just carry on that design. I have something in my paint there. Get it out. And there we have line number 2. Now, maybe I should have said this at the start because we're kind of in it now, but this, I'm going to try and leave the frame like this. So this could be a good video for if you want something in the background, kind of for a time lapse feel. Because every time you look up, you can see that the inside space has shrunk more and more, and just get a little glimpse at how we're doing. This is really undulating and rippling here right now. And I'm pressing my paintbrush with the same hardness consistency as I move throughout the piece. And that's what gives the lines their uniform thickness. And by that, I mean the same thickness all the way around. I'm using a round 2 brush, which is the one I use all the time. And it has a pointed tip and a kind of wider belly. And notice that I'm pressing down on it. So the width of our lines are the width of the brush when it's still like this. And often I talk about using the tip or the point of the brush. And when we do that, we have a skinnier line because there's less of it touching the paper, and a smaller surface area means a smaller mark. I will show you what I mean by that. I'm going to use the very tip. I can get a smaller line, but I kind of like what I've been going for here. So we'll just keep that up, filling in as we go. Now I'm going to turn things. I like the little freckles that the paper has. That's very cute. And I'm just going to go from here. There's no right or wrong way to attack this piece. We can switch up where we are in the paper at any time. I like to move things around depending on the comfortability of my wrist. I find that I have the best amount of brush control when I'm moving left to right. I am right-handed for reference. So I like to set myself up to be in the best comfortability position, and that often means moving things around because we're often tackling different areas of a larger paper. Soon these are going to come together, which I am very excited for. Down like this. I think this is really going to look like a cross section of a tree once we're complete, and I would love if someone could tell me how old this tree is once we get there. Okay, cool. Look how we're really getting more undulations the more and more we go in as our lines are responding to what's happening around them. So we're going to head to the bottom over here, press our brush out, and move along. It's funny because the day before I stumbled into this craft shop, which was recommended to me, but I knew the name, but I didn't know anything about it. Hadn't looked it up. I went for breakfast at this restaurant called Titilan, which I could very much be pronouncing wrong, so I apologize if I am. And I had a golden smoothie bowl, which had turmeric and granola and bananas and strawberries and all kinds of lovely things, or golden milk bowl. And I had a hot latte in a really cool handmade ceramic cup, kind of the same pink shade actually. And there was a library upstairs, a bookstore, a few little shops. There was a man selling his handmade pottery, to which I purchased one of the things. I'll actually show you that in a minute if you're interested, which you can't respond to, so I'm just going to decide yes. And there was one room that was a bit of an art gallery, and it had these really cool paintings or drawings. I'm actually not sure what they were. And they were on round paper, and they had a really lovely deckled edge, and they had different flags of different countries in them. And the World Cup was happening at the time, so I thought it was extra cool. I don't know if it was related. I mean, I can only assume. And I posted some pictures of them on my Instagram story. Maybe you saw. Anyways, and I thought, wow, I would love to do a Zen doodle on circle paper and respond to the edges. That would be so cool. I'll keep an eye out for circle paper in, this journey of life that I'm on. Little did I know, the next day I went to the shop and I was looking around the shop for about 10-15 minutes. So many little goodies to see. There were all these drawers filled with little trinkets and things. I actually have a full haul of everything that I bought there on my shorts page. It was from mid-July, if you're looking for it. And bopping around, really getting my eyes into every little thing. They were all made of paper and wood and wax and really cool earthy natural materials. And it wasn't until I reached the end of the very small shop that I noticed they had circular handmade paper. And I thought, what in the manifestation? So I simply had to get it. And I knew I wasn't going to paint it there because I didn't bring my paints, A, and B, I would then have to leave it there. So I knew I was going to bring it back, and I wondered if that was a silly idea to try and bring it back and not let it get damaged and all kinds of stuff. But here we are doing it in LA, so I guess it worked. And I'm really happy that I found it. And I'm also really happy that I kind of had the idea to do it by seeing the other artist's work who was working on circle paper. Unfortunately, I don't have their name. And so yeah, that was just a nice lesson reminder to myself that I might have in the moment when I was at Tetelan said, why am I, spending this time after breakfast looking around? We have lots of the city to get to. I actually wasn't thinking that, but I think on another day, another mood, I certainly could have been. And it all plays into what I like to call the soup of what I'm creating now. So every experience is worth sinking into in some little way, I would say. Now, a fun physics activity, if you like that kind of thing right now, would be to calculate how long it's taken to go around and how many-ish we should have left. I think with 3 layers, you should be able to do that. And granted, you'll see the time of the video, but maybe for part of this video, I won't even be working on it. Or maybe I'll skip some layers. That's just if you like that kind of thing. I'll measure how big it is right now after we do this row. It's around 11.5 by 11.5. And here is the tray I got at Tetelan. He painted scenes from his village, and this was a piñata. And son, he told me, look at all his incredible little lines. So cool. I must have used a teeny, teeny, tiny brush. Here's the details. This cool edge with the eyes. And in it, I keep 2 green tea Kit Kats and my mail key, which has a cherry charm. I do fear this might, well, not fear in a bad way. I say fear when I mean think, I think that's just an English thing. But I do think this might be one of my particularly long videos, which I'm not mad about because A, I like variety and I haven't done one in a while. And 2, I see you asking for them. I feel like they're great for body doubling or throwing on at work. So if you've been wanting a long one, I'm happy that you're here. And if you don't prefer the long ones, remember you are always able to just turn it off or pause it, come back another time. Doesn't really matter. Look at this archway over here is expanding. I wonder how big it's going to get. I see we have a couple of them as we go through the piece. We've kind of done enough to see that in some areas it's way lighter than others. There's a great example. And as usual, that's just dependent on how much water and pigment are in the ratio of the paint I put down at the time. So the more pigment there is, the darker it will be. And the more water, the lighter it will be. Well, that might have been wider than I'd wanted it to be, but it doesn't matter. Keep moving along. Just Keep Swimming is playing in my head, but I don't think I can sing that. Now, in some places, the kind of opposite happens. So here, the shape's expanded, whereas in this one, it's kind of just got smaller because we're going to go into the crevice, go along, and then pretty quickly inside, we're going to need to change angles. And then it kind of just depends on how the shape is approached, the angle it's at, and all those good things. Out here. Especially with smaller papers, I like to hold them down to stabilize them, which this I would not qualify as a smaller paper, but for some reason I like holding on to it right now. I want to be careful not to smudge anything. Even if I did smudge something though, it would just become part of the piece. The tree ring art police are not going to give me a hard time about it if that happens. They'd probably more likely just say, wow, you wanted to turn our tree rings into art? Honored. Thanks. I'd say, welcome. I had loads of fun doing it. I also need to start packing for something. So this is an excellent source of procrastination. That's why I love art too, is because you can zone out and you can reset and you can find your flow state and you can feel productive at the same time. Before this, was doing a drawing using some micron pens on a really nice paper. It was a 1-year anniversary gift for a client. It was a drawing of their wedding day on some really nice paper because the first anniversary gift is paper. So I was very honored they asked me to do that. And while I was doing that, I was listening to some music, and then I was listening to some fun podcasts. And I love that I can relax and I shouldn't say be productive at the same time because you can't really do those things at the same time, really. But I guess that there's something tangible and beautiful to show from the experience. That's what's happening right now. I sometimes see comments saying they see the beautiful paper of the Lomely books and they say, why would you ruin that by putting something so boring as lines inside of it? And to them I say, the girls who get it, and the girls who don't, because to me, it was the opposite of boring. By slowing down to do that, I put myself into my best possible state, or kind of see it as recharging time, so that I can then enter the activities that someone else deem might more fun with a bigger sense of enjoyment and gratitude. So, joke's on you if you think lines are boring. I think they're great. Look at these bumps we have. That is also the kind of person who sees it and just thinks it's a bunch of rings and doesn't notice all the little delicacies and intricate bits, which I guess is their loss, eh? I'm really enjoying noticing all these little things and how they transform as we move around. See, this was a little hill, they made it bigger, and now it's expanding even again. Really cool. Now this feathering, which is when the line isn't completely smooth, is because the paint doesn't quite seep into the paper like I'd explained earlier. And I know that bothers some people, but we don't need to let it bother us today. That's kind of just the identity and personality of the piece. Everything's different. I kind of like to think of differences like that as how I think of friends. So we have different friends for different reasons. So I might have a friend who I love to eat with. I might have a friend who really makes me laugh so hard. Another might give me great advice. And I have all these friends for different reasons. They make me feel good in different ways and they bring a quality into my life that I am receiving from them. And I don't need to have the same exact friend copy pasted 5 times, you know? I have one and I appreciate their qualities. And then I have another friend who's completely different. And in an ideal world, they're friends too. And that's kind of how I see these paintings is once you've done one that's exact in a way, you're totally welcome to do it again if you particularly enjoy it, but it's kind of about finding the little differences and appreciating the diversity and all of that. Is at least my perspective. Think what you want about it. We're definitely getting faster as we go around, and not because we are speeding up over here, but because our anxiety in the center is really having a shrink. Just disappearing as all those chemicals are flushing away out of us. I have a feeling that I will sleep well tonight. Okay, let's have a nice little moment of quiet as we finish this section. And connect. Get that as crisp as we can. Round 4 complete. Now I've just stepped us a little further away because I want to make sure I'm not painting where the bar is at the bottom of the video because, I mean, you might not care, but I would find that kind of distracting. It's weird having to consider the digital packaging and presentation of something so analog, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm more grateful for the platform to be able to show you my work and hopefully help you out of this anxiety state that you're in. Although I think by now we're feeling much better. At least I am. I was anxious about a few things, which I will not be sharing because they're personal, but I was there. I think also I just, for the sake of realness, want to remind you that I get super anxious. I'm way better than I used to be, but I still definitely get anxious. Like there's a reason I do all this, you know? And it's funny though, because sometimes I get anxious about, did I do enough Zen doodles? Am I on schedule for all the stuff that originated? Because I was reducing my anxiety and I've kind of brought it in a different way. But overall, it's much more manageable. And I kind of am able to be like, Lizzie, why are you anxious about this system? That's to actually help reduce your anxiety. And I'm able to catch it. But just for a moment of realness, it does happen, which once I think about it, I'm like, that's just funny. Very funny. I'm gonna do this a little bit here. So, question for you. How did you think about that moment of quiet? I thought it was kind of nice. Oh, I love this like wave, curve, straight. It's gonna shrink to a point. I wonder if we'll get any like points like that. I mean, we kind of, I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, I ask because I know I've mentioned this before, but just in case you didn't see that video or you want a reminder, I love to remind myself is that, you know, when you are trying to go to bed, you're exhausted, long day, can't wait to be in bed, hopefully all clean, had a shower, hopefully pets are nearby, ready to go to bed. And then your brain decides that's the time to run through everything from that day, chit chat, be anxious, try and plan, blah, 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 and you can't sleep. And you're like, brain, do you actually mind? You were telling me you're tired all day, and now we have the opportunity to go to bed and you're not seizing it? What am I missing? Well, what you are missing is that you must not have had enough moments of quiet in your day, which is not a criticism of you at all. It's extremely hard to find moments of quiet in today's society. Um, I, for one, love to listen to audiobooks, podcasts, music because I'm doing anything. Um, I would say I like to talk to people on the phone, but I don't. It's actually not my favorite thing, which makes life difficult because a lot of my friends live very far away and I have no choice but to call them if we want to hang out. And I enjoy those moments, but I'm not someone who's like on the phone all the time, you know. Anyways, getting off tangent. We don't really have many moments of just silence in our day anymore. I think silence to a lot of us nowadays feels kind of uncomfortable because it's something we're not used to. And our brains like to kind of save and hold on to comfortability over something that might actually be more beneficial or make us feel better, just because that's how they roll. I can't really remember the science on that, but you could look it up if you want to. So I'm probably sure I'll mention it later because I love all that. We're just going to jump so I can continue to go left to right. So we're going to start over here. This is the first round where we're not turning the paper, by the way, just trying something new. Anyways, because we didn't have moments of quiet in the day, our brains never got an opportunity to process things. And so when you hop in bed and it's finally that first moment of quiet, the brain's like, nice, gonna process everything right about now. And that's all the chatter. Aha, right? I know. It's funny because these things seem so simple and like, of course that makes sense, but it's really not something that we connect by ourselves so easily. Um, as soon as I learned that one, I was like, oh my gosh, duh. So, anyways, the remedy. Parmesan, you want to come over here? No. the remedy I'd say for that is to make sure you build little moments of quiet into your day so the processing can get a head start. And by the time you lay your little head to rest on the pillow, you've had it's got going already. And so it's not requiring as much of you. Um, and what you can do is kind of pick an activity, and that's your quiet activity. And you just kind of float off into wherever your brain wants to go, and you let that processing happen in the background. It's not always conscious, by the way, it can be subconscious processing. It usually is. So, for example, maybe that's when you do the dishes, which I know can be such a boring task, but just kind of when I think, oh man, I have to do all these dishes, often I do listen to something. And I don't usually have too much because I'm just one person, but sometimes I have people over or I bake something. I don't really bake much, but I'll cook something that has a bowl for the sauce, a bowl for this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how on earth did this build up to this? But anyway, um, and that could be your moment of quiet. I like to just pay attention to the feeling of the water. I get it at a really nice temperature. Kind of the same concept as when here we're still kind of going left to right, which is why I'm doing this segment by segment. Um, oh dear, lost the train of thought. Oh, similar to how, that's funny, I was just doing it, moving my hand to an optimal position instead of kind of struggling and trying to go at an angle and whatever that doesn't work for me. If you need to do an activity, I just kind of like to lean into it. Like, all right, washing the dishes, that's what's happening right now. I'm going to find a lovely temperature. I'm going to make sure I'm as comfortable as I can be. And I'm going to let that processing roll as I get through this. At the end, I'll have a lovely clean sink. And it'll all be worth it. Hopefully. My paint water is looking an awful lot like my paint. That's funny. Okay, I'm going to hold on to this just because the angle I'm at can kind of make it move a little bit at this point. I think this is my first Zen doodle on round paper. I've definitely worked on round paper, but not like this. Press the brush down, swoop it back along, filling in any little gaps that I see crop up, like so. It's funny how our undulations have transformed, but still definitely look related, you know? Like this has got bumpier, but it's still the same flow. Love all that. Now we have a section of bumps. I was also considering doing this in pen, using like a micron, a very thin one, to get lots and lots of little layers. I feel like that would look so cool. The problem is it would take me forever, and I don't know how much you'd want to watch, like a 4-hour video. So I thought this might be make a little sense, a little more sense for everyone involved. You can tell it's the end of the day because my sentences aren't quite sentencing, but that's okay. Here we have another lollop and a fill in. And a connect. Great. Okay, I'm gonna go a bit like this, just smooth them out. Get rid of any tapers. And here we go, looking so cool. So for this next go round, we're going to test out the processing in the background thing. And I'm not going to talk, and I'm just going to let you filter your thoughts. Don't worry, it's just one go round, and this is going to be the shortest one yet. Anxiety's really shrinking over there. And if it feels unbearable or uncomfortable, know that it's not permanent. I'm doing it with you, and I will be back at the end of the round. Halfway through the quiet part, you're doing great. Okay, very well done. We've made it to the end of that round. In quiet, which for someone might have been a big relief, for someone might have been unpleasant, for someone else might have been emotional. However, you experienced it is okay. And maybe you think, you know what, I kind of liked that quiet, in which case can always mute the rest of the video if that's helpful to you. No offense taken. But for the rest of us, I guess I am back. So we are swimming along these little lines. The center is really shrinking at quite, what's the word when it gets bigger over time? I want to say it begins with an E. End of the day, I can't think of it. Not expedite. Oh, I really can't think of it. But whatever it is, it's getting more and more filled as we go, which is very nice. Toodles anxiety. I feel way better. I really hope that you do too. Sometimes, and we're not even done. Sometimes, if there's a little tiny bit, I actually like to skip it and do the larger bits first, because where they go is kind of an indicator of where the line is between, and then there's just a small little space that I can just quickly do a little connect on, just like that, which I enjoy. I'm also really enjoying seeing, again, the different levels. Like, we're using the same color this whole time, and look how different these are if we really take time to look at them. That is really interesting. I think we need to go back in there a bit. And this is interesting. Look, we didn't do such a smooth line. There's a little bit of a bump. So what do? Yep, we just go around it, and that bump is now part of our piece. If my paint will stick to the paper, kind of like so. And along the bottom. Sometimes I'm kind of just making it like a puddle, putting more paint and water than I would have if the paper was more porous, and then letting it kind of just sink in at its own time, as opposed to trying to force it on my schedule. That might just not be how the paper and paint feel at the time. That's fine, no rush. Make our way around here. It's really giving tree so much, which this is kind of an out of the box way to draw a tree. I went to college I did liberal arts, and then I studied, my major was studio art, so like fine art, and I minored in business, specifically entrepreneurship, which is great because I now have an art business. Love that for me. And then I also minored in art history, which I really enjoy. Don't use that so, I mean, I guess I do actually use it. It's a lot of critical thinking. Yeah, I take that back. I use that all the time. Anywho, I bring that up to say, when I was applying for colleges, I really originally had wanted to go to RISD, which was they have a combination program with Brown. Alas, I did not get in, but you know, that's fine. The cookie crumbles how it will. Anyways, the entrance exam for RISD, which is Rhode Island School of Design, which is a fantastic art school, was two parts. One, you had to draw a bicycle using pencil. And I think the purpose of that was just kind of to find where your technical skill lay. A bicycle is very much about proportion and line. I think they wanted to see how you could interpret something so technical with an element of creativity, but also just kind of understand where you were at a technical level. So that was part one. And part two was to do a drawing using both sides of the paper, which again is a really interesting prompt. Sorry, again, the bicycle one's not interesting. It's a very different prompt from the bicycle one. And my hypothesis is that that one was to kind of test out your creativity. there's so many different ways you could paint or draw something on both sides of the paper. I actually don't remember what I did now that I think about it. I don't remember my piece for either of those prompts. I wonder if I'd find them if I looked. Well, I wouldn't find them in my sketchbook because I sent them off to the university, so who knows where they are now. Probably in the recycling. But I love that as a prompt because they were trying to figure out how your brain worked. And what made me think of that right now is if the prompt had been to draw a tree, represent a tree in some way, I feel like this could be a really cool answer because we're not drawing a tree in a typical way, but we are, from some perspectives, conveying it in our own way, a cross section of the trunk. And so I feel like that would have hit both the technical because of the lines and then also the creative out of the box thinking. Or they might have hated it, who knows? But that could be kind of cool. I remember also, so I had to do the dual examination. Is that the term? I don't know. Entrance qualifications for Brown and RISD. And one of the questions Brown had on the Common App was, what is, hold on, let me think about what exactly it was. Okay, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was something along the lines of like, what do you wish could happen to you every day? Or something of that nature. And I remember I was sat and thinking about it, and college apps were, driving me mental as they tend to do if you're going through those this year. Do not forget to also take time for yourself, as I will illustrate in this story, but it's not normal to have that much pressure on you. So make sure you also take time for yourself. And I just couldn't think of anything. There was the pressure of it being Brown. I wanted to have an amazing answer. Everything I could think of was too basic. Gosh, I really wish I remembered the exact question right now. But anyway, I was really stressed about it. Couldn't think of anything. Hadn't taken a break in a while. And when you haven't taken a break in a while, the brain just short circuits a little bit. And so I decided to just, lay it all down, leave the house. I was at my grandparents' house. I was in their yellow living room working at my grandpa's desk. And my dad and I left to just go get ice cream, just do something different, activate a different part of the brain. And hopefully, when I came back, I would be fresh, have new ideas. Anyway, as soon as we got in the car, we pulled out of the driveway. We were still on my grandparents' street. And the idea came to me. Granted, I didn't get in, but I still think this was a good answer. I wanted to be able to see something new every day, being able to see and appreciate something new every day in my ordinary life. I don't know if this is going to be a helpful story to anyone because I don't remember the exact question, but the point that I was trying to convey is I wanted to always maintain my sense of wonder. So even if I walk the exact same path to work every single day or school, I pass the exact same bush, slowing down and seeing, oh, there's a new bud today, or oh my gosh, look at that funny little leaf, or look at that aphid, let's get it out of there. Whatever it is, being able to notice little details like that are what keep us alive, literally. Stop and smell the roses. Um, and I kind of just tell you that to remind you that if you can't force yourself into thinking, sometimes your brain just does need oxygen. That's exactly why we as humans like to go for little walks. And also to just say how important gratitude is or noticing as a mechanism for gratitude, I guess. Damn, I really wish I remembered the actual question. but I kind of liked it. And just like that, we're almost done with another ring. This is really a soothing little project for my late afternoon, early evening activity. We're almost done with this next ring. Parmesan is kind of rousing from her 12th nap of the day. She goes through phases. Phase is either talk to me and try and make me put her on my lap, or asleep. Cool life she's got there, to be honest. I'm gonna just take away some of that because there's quite a lot of pigment and pop it down on my paper towel. All right, how's everyone doing? I'm really seeing some patterns form, which is just so interesting. Things are pretty typically staying the same level. There's, I guess, our lowest point. Maybe here's our highest, or here. So we're gonna make our brown nice and soupy. And I'm gonna start from here this time. Getting all up in there. Now here we have a rounded little divot that we're going to head into and back out of. Trace around. Now we get to a spiky little divot. Two spikies, actually. Let's make a little connection bridge between them, and then we'll go ahead and add thickness to that line. Just like that. It's funny, it's almost like it's their little pencil mark when it first goes down. And then once we see where it is on the page, we can go back in with our thick paint and really make its mark. If we make it to the end of this line, which we will because there's no rush and we're having a nice time, I will give you a little glimpse at what Parmesan is up to. She's asleep on the other very lovely papers that I got. Thanks, Parmesan. Ryan, last I checked, is in his hammock. Just enjoying the day. This one, I think I'm gonna go from here. Just kind of switching it up, keeping things fresh. Oh, that went down a little further than I might have liked, but it's kind of light, so it's not too crazy obvious to me anyway, so just gonna kind of move around. Sometimes I like to play into a oops and exaggerate it. That's the word, sorry. Super brain dead. And sometimes if it's not too obvious, I'll just kind of keep going as if it's not there. That reminds me of a funny story, which is that I have a cousin who is about to turn 18, which stresses me out because in my mind he's 5. But anyway, he was had a little later than the other siblings in his family, and for the first few years of his life, he did also have a name, and he still does, but we'd call him the Oops. And then as soon as he was able to know what we were talking about, we quickly stopped doing that because we don't want to hurt his feelings. But, it was all said with love. Sometimes we still refer to him as the Oops. Best Oops ever, though. Okay, this is kind of a funny one. The paint's not really trying to stick. If that's the case, we're not going to force it. We're going to go Look at me forcing it. I just feel like I had to do that bit. We're just gonna go, and at the end of every line, or go round really kind of quickly and nonchalantly, to know if you noticed, I was looking around at oof, someone needs to have dinner soon, at the round that I just did, and see if there's any bits that just need a little bit of an edit or a quick fix. And so, what I am saying that for is to say, I'm not going to get hung up on that little bit. I'm just going to move around my circle. And at the end, I'll come back and have a look, and I can always add to it, give it a little tweak. I'm really liking these undulating areas. Just like that. Now, I think once I get to this, which kind of looks like bite marks out of a cookie, well, I guess right here, I already put my brush down. Sometimes I don't mean to put my brush down and I just notice I'm already going for it. Sure. Anyways, once I connect these bits, I'm going to move over to the left side and continue from that direction. And we'll make it this way. And connect, just get that pigment in there. I wonder if this bit was funky because it had fingerprint, even though I always wash my hands very carefully in general in life, but especially before doing a painting and on something with soft paper. Our hands still have oils on them, so I wonder if that's impacted how the paint is sitting on here in certain places, because I was going like that, which is probably not smart, to be honest, but it's done now, isn't it? Boop. It's really interesting. This part is much smoother, and then this has lots of little ripples. I wonder why. I feel like very often we wonder why, and we don't really need to know. That's something that stresses me so much about AI is you'll be with someone, and I mean, granted, I do this too. That's why it bothers me, but I have been recently really conscious of it and just trying not to do it because what's the point? But want the answer to something and just immediately have to ask AI. And like, I don't think we're really meant to have so much information at one time. Not like we're meant to be uninformed, but more like why does our brain need to be holding on to all of that? I get curiosity. Trust me, I'm a Sagittarius. I love answers to things, but also there's certain details that, or at least if we find out, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy for thinking this, but there should be some element of like having work to figure that out. Like I feel like as you're kind of like researching and trying to figure out or learning from experience or listening to a friend tell a story or whatever it is, I kind of feel like there's place in your brain actively at that time is carving out a little space in its library to put that fact or detail. And if we just get answers so easily from AI, my visualization is that we have this little brain library with all these new books and ideas flooding it all the time, and the librarians are just completely overworked. There isn't enough space to put all these things, overwhelmed. They don't even want these things a lot of the time. And so the library, the brain, kind of just shuts down and isn't able to work as effectively because its pipeline of structure is clogged. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we have these like shutdown and burnouts now is because we just can't. We just can't. I've kind of been finding someone will say, "Oh, did you know?" And I'm like, "No." And I don't really care to. But thanks. I like my little bubble. Oh, we finished. Time to show you Parmesan. She's having a little bit of a sleep on my papers. How are you, Parmesan? Having a good day? Awesome. Thanks. So here we are back at our piece, which now has such a lovely border of our lines. I just had a look at my phone, which I'm filming on, as per usual. And I don't have much battery left, so I really hope that this doesn't die. If it does, we might need to come back to this tomorrow, but that won't affect you. I'm just saying I'm going to put it all together in one video, but just saying the light might switch and stuff. But I'll tell you if that happens, and you'll know before it does, but just so that you know what I'm thinking. Okay, here we have a lovely straight bit. After the summer, I'm going to foster some more kittens, by the way. I miss having little kitten behavior in the apartment. I miss passion fruit. The good thing, though, is now whenever I see something that's passion fruit, like the other night I was out with my friends and my friend Caroline got a spicy passion fruit margarita. Or when I was in Mexico, there was a passion fruit ceviche. Every time, I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Every time I see that, I think of her. So she'll kind of forever live on, which is very sweet. I do think the people who adopted her changed her name, though. They told me that, the organization, which is okay. She's their cat now. And funny story, my friend was over at my house and he'd only met Parmesan once or twice. And she came into the room and he goes, "Who's that? Passion fruit?" And he meant Parmesan. And I thought it was so funny. And I thought my next kitten is being called passion fruit for sure. And then kind of just by chance, I wasn't planning to foster anytime soon. But they texted me, Rory to the Rescue, the organization I foster through, who are also how I got Parmesan. And they said they have this little singleton who needs fostering that day. Can I pick her up? And I was like, "Yup, and I will be naming her passion fruit." And that is how I got passion fruit. And then I had her for about 6 weeks. And then she was ready for her adoption. If you're wondering, no one asked. Okay, we're keep making our way over here. Trying to like notice, like sometimes these lines happen where it looks like they're going in like this, and I think we might need a little more line activity before that happens, but kind of interesting when it does. Now I am mostly looking at this from a different angle too, because I'm lower to the desk creating it, whereas you have more of a bird's eye view, so I feel like we might just be kind of getting different things from the piece at different times, which is just an observation. Oh, by the way, I went to Meta the other day to try on some glasses. I know that a lot of people hate them, but can I finish speaking before you make a judgment? When I travel, it's very difficult for me to bring my filming stuff because it's really heavy and it's also fragile. And I was just kind of, I don't want to like not be able to work. And so I was just kind of brainstorming what could I do about that? And I thought, oh my gosh, if I have glasses that I just pack those when I'm traveling, do a couple videos with them, then I'm not really interrupting my workflow and I'm not having to bring this whole situation. And it just would make my life make a lot more sense. I would still keep this set up for when I'm at home, obviously. Anyways, so I thought, oh, that could actually solve a lot of my pickles. And so I went to the store to go and try them on. And alas, they did not work for me. Um, they, I thought they would shoot from my view of my eyes, which also would be great because when I'm painting, I am obviously right now looking exactly at the paintbrush on the paper because I'm kind of looking at this angle. Whereas when I film, often you see from above, and then my hand is in the way at some angles. And I don't really realize that until it's too late. And the video is already done. So to mitigate that, I thought, oh, that could be a great part as well, is that you can actually like see exactly what I'm doing. But it shoots in 0.5 and it shoots kind of like far away. It shoots like right above the glasses, so it just wasn't really the vantage point that I wanted. And then the other issue was that it only shoots for 5 minutes at a time, 3 or 5 minutes, depending on the quality you go with. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I take at least an hour to do my paintings. So I would have to keep kind of toggling them on and off. So it turns out it wasn't right for me for what I was looking for. I can imagine some other use cases for it, more of like a POV, we're doing this today kind of vibe, but I don't really do stuff like that anyway. So yeah, didn't get them. I got a bunch of comments saying people couldn't believe I even tried them on, but that's okay. I had my reasons. The dude in the store said maybe one day they'd make it so you could film for longer. So, not to say I won't revisit, but yeah, just to close the loop on that didn't really make sense for me. And we're really getting through these loops so nicely. Another one is complete in just one segment. Right here. Oh, I guess it's kind of two actually, because we have this bit and then we have their connector. Okay, cool. How's it looking from up there? Sometimes I like to come to your level and see. All right, I just played with him a tiny bit. I really wonder when he comes in here and is like, "Meow," is he communicating a specific thing with me? Is he like, girl, you've been in there a long time, come have a snack or come play with me or something like that? Or is he just like noise interaction, you know? Any animal behavioral psychologists out there or scientists? I'd love to know. So at this point in our piece, our segments are kind of, in general, shrinking in size. And so our paintbrush is kind of doing like a whoop-de-loop dance around them. And it's really repetitive and kind of meditative, mesmerizing, all that kind of stuff too. You're doing the same hand motion, but like slightly different. Something is reassuring about it. This is also inspiring me to try this with lots of different shapes. I've only ever seen rectangle, square, and circle paper, but I imagine there's a triangle paper somewhere out there. Maybe a flower paper. Ryan is now lying on the floor of the studio. Parmesan is sitting up, if anyone was wondering. Okay, I think these edges are pretty safe now to lean on, which is good because my wrist was getting a little tired having to float. I also feel I have less control when it's floating. It's nice to make a connection somewhere. Wrist or that part of the hand to table. That's one of my biggest tips for brush control, is just to get a good connection area. Kind of have that as your core, and then you can move the wrist from it, which I wish I could explain better. I can try, but I don't know if it really comes across so well on the camera. Maybe we'll do another in-person watercoloring class at some point. Now this is totally dried and it's much lighter, so I'm going to do one more over here and then I think head over that way. It's kind of happening again there, so let's go like this and just get our marks down on the paper. And then we can go in after we've built ourselves a little foundation. And kind of edit or tweak. I like the word tweak because it suggests we're not changing too much. We're kind of just giving it a little bit of a zhuzh. Okay, that was a pretty solid one. Now let's go around this side. Oh, I like that. That's kind of giving Cassandra, isn't it? Okay, let's turn things a little and try and go back here and get in on these little bits. And this nice, richy, warmy wood color. We have a nice helicopter going up there. Lovely. Maybe here. That feels good to me. Okie dokes. I see a little bit of a corner I could make right there. That looks good. Wow, look at this little shrunken anxiety. Get out of here. Okay, this one, just for variety, I would like to try to do without moving the paper. See if now that we have a little bit of a different shape to work with, if that is more favorable. And if not, we have plenty of lines to do more options. So if we really don't like it, we don't have to do it again. It's always important to remember that. I feel like often when I feel anxious, I feel a lot of pressure to make the exact right decision. Even if I'm not anxious, actually, I think that's just like humanism. Um, and I like to remember that there just isn't always a right decision. It's not like well, there are certainly wrong decisions, but I know I say this a lot, but sometimes you just need to decide. The having to decide can be such a bottleneck in your day, whether it's like emotionally draining to do that, physically time consuming. Sometimes you just have to decide. Like, I didn't know what color to do this. I was like, red could be really cool. Red and pink would be like kind of feminine and pretty. And then I was originally actually thinking of doing like a dark blue, bluey black before I opened this, the color I did the background of the galaxy. And then I opened it and I realized that the paper was pink. I'd forgotten I got pink. I thought for some reason I'd got white. And I was like, well, I mean, that could still look cool, but I wonder if I should do something more on the warm color spectrum just so it kind of goes better. And then this was like such a nice earthy tone as well. Or orange could be cool and it'd be brighter. And then I was like, you know what? Just decide. Like if you're not going to despise it because you're going to enjoy the process. So I'm talking to myself, even if aesthetically it doesn't turn out A1, which I actually really like how this color combo has turned out, but just hypothetically speaking, worst case in the world, I can order another, maybe not from that same shop, but I could get another circle paper. I could make a circle paper. I could cut down a circle paper. I could do this again. This isn't the only time in the world something like this can happen for me. So I just need to decide on one of those colors for this one. I can always do it again another time. And I think that remembering that helps to take me out of paralysis sometimes, which is just necessary. Okay, I like how this is going. Because it's tighter and I don't want to smudge my wrist, I'm going to stop working on the right and move back over to the left. Like so. And the same here. I do fear this might mean my hand is in the way, but it moves. I'm also really impressed with how flat this paper has stayed. It's very sturdy. Sometimes when paper gets watercolor, it can kind of curl inwards, which makes it difficult to table bounce. You know what that means. Ryan. Hey, bro. Come here. Don't actually step on this, though. Sorry, that was deceiving. Oh, thanks, Ryan. That's nice. Ryan is 10. Can you believe it? Or he's something like 10. When I got him, he was between 1 and 3. And that was however many, that was 8 years ago. Ish. We're having difficulty with the paper there again, so we're just going to move along. Kind of theme of this as well is when there is a paralysis or a blockage in some category, remembering there's always other categories we can address or give our attention to at the time until the blockage on the other one lets up. Also, it may be silly, but sometimes if I can't decide something, I'll just put the choices in front of Brian or Parmesan and be like, A or B. And whatever one they go to, I'm like, well, that's it. Obviously, this is not for things that have very weighted outcomes. It's more like, which earrings should I wear today? Or, I don't know, something silly like that. Just helps. Or you can ask a friend, family member. See a little fur in there. Sometimes they're very hard to take out. I might need to get my tweezers. Which I keep at my desk for this purpose because, yep, this is not the first time this has happened. But I don't want to mess up the actual paper. Okay, we got it. I did invite the cat onto the desk, so. Well, no, I didn't invite the cat onto the desk. I invited the cat into the aura of the painting, so. I don't know what I expect, but I'm not complaining. Just saying. Okay, wow, I just love how this is going. I love that I am feeling calm. I love that I've decided to spend my evening doing this. I love that I'm not on my phone right now, so there isn't the opportunity that someone can say some nonsense to me. I love that I have a nice view and some great supplies. Just gonna soak into these happy things. I love that Ryan and Parmesan are here to hang out with me. Whether they see it as hanging out with me, I'm not sure. I really wonder what they think of me. Once I read tarot, by the way, and I read Ryan and Parmesan's tarot, I feel like at this point in the very long video, it's safe space enough that anyone who is a hater is long gone, so I can be my true self. But I read Parmesan's tarot, what did she think of Ryan? And Ryan's tarot, what did he think of Parmesan? And apparently, Parmesan thinks Ryan is incredible, the best, like looks up to him, thinks he's wonderful. Which I'm like, that totally checks out. I got her when she was a little kitten. And like, I think it was the second night ever that she was at my house. They were friends and he was licking her, and they don't really do that much anymore, but they really I think she felt really safe. She'd been like with a foster, and so she was in a new place, but I think she felt safe and yada 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 yada. So that's nice. And when she hasn't seen him in a while, like if he's having a moment and just wants to be on his own and in a closet or something weird, she is like, "Hey, Ryan, where are you?" Goes to look for him. So that checks out. Then I read Ryan's tarot. What does he think of Parmesan? And it literally said he thought she was okay. Which is so funny to me because I really do think he just thinks she's okay. I think he likes her better some days than others, but like she can't tell. She thinks they get along great and that he just likes his alone time. So I think everyone's happy, but it's just so funny. Out of anything the tarot could have said, that's what it said. Do I have something on the end of the brush now? Okay. Oh my gosh, I just think this is so cool. It could also be cool to cut out the center, make this like a donut. I'm not actually going to do that, but I'm just kind of voicing ideas. Maybe you're doing your own version of this and you want to do something different. Always allowed. Over here, what is this? Okay, it's happening again with the absorption. So we're just going to move back over to the left. I love how light it stays late. No, how late it stays light this time of year. I do find it makes it harder to stop working, but it also means it's easier to have a kind of relaxing evening because I feel like when it gets dark, when it's winter earlier, I feel like I don't even get an evening. May as well just get in bed, which I like for a lot of introverted reasons, but I guess we always want what we can't have, right? I'm trying to be better about that, but at this moment, I'm enjoying that it is light so late. I don't even know what time it is, but I know it's after 7. Okay, coming around. Wow, if you're still here watching this with me, thank you so much. I'm very impressed by your attention span. Hoping that you feel much calmer than when you arrived. Okay, let's get into these little bits. I don't know if they're really gonna go. Okay, so for our next level, we're going to do another quiet one. It's good for us. We're really just emptying that thought bank so we can all sleep well. Is why, okay? It's nice practice. And it's our smallest round yet. Okay, and we'll start. It's Ryan. We'll start over here. Okay, well done. That sounded sarcastic, but I don't know, it just came out like that. Actually, well done. A lot of nice subconscious processing just happened in that round. So good job. Clear it, get it out of here. Even if you're working at the same time or crocheting or whatever it is, I saw someone the other day say they were organizing their beads to one of my videos, which sounds so meditative and nice. Um, the quiet was still very good for you. Let's take an emotional step back a bit and look at this shape. It kind of looks like a lemon almost, like a jagged lemon with the two bits on the side. I don't know, it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. Yeah, the paper is definitely trickier to saturate. But it's cool. Cool, 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 cool. Just gonna get ourselves around and worry about the rest later. It's funny, I realize I say worry about when I mean just think. Like, I'm not worrying about it at all. I know I'm gonna sort it out. So this is just me noticing that out loud and trying to undo that because words have a lot of meaning, and I don't want my subconscious to get confused and think that I need to worry about that. That's not something I need to worry about. That's just something I need to do. Very capable of doing that. With no problem. I'm just so intrigued to see what touches first. Also, I'm gonna need to sign this piece, and I like to sign them in a creative way with my little Lizzie logo. Signature, same thing. Trademarked, by the way. It could have been cool like here, and then that would inform, I don't know, maybe I could put it into one of these lines. I need to think on it a little bit. I'll get back to you on that. I just had a really, when I do these, I get these really vivid flashbacks to things that are so random or that I haven't thought of in so long. And I just got such a weird flashback to the first episode of Grey's Anatomy. What? I haven't watched that show in years. Excellent show, by the way. But I kind of had to stop because it was making me a little sad and I wasn't in the right headspace. Maybe it's a sign I should pick it back up? Who knows? But anyways, I attribute that to the brain just kind of being able to quiet, and then the librarian inside my brain is like, okay, well, I have a little bit of downtime. What's in this shelf over here? And then pulls out something completely random, like the first episode of Grey's Anatomy. At least that's how I like to, the visual I like to turn it into. Does anyone else do anything like that? Might come back there. I definitely want to have a really cool library in my home at some point, and I keep lots of journals and books and memories and whatnot, and I want there to be a section that is all of those books that I've created throughout my life. Also, my sketchbooks I have a lot of, and just a place with a really nice armchair or sofa where I can prop myself up. Actually, kind of want to be horizontal. Get comfy and read through my life. That would be fun. Always wanted that. So I'm making the material for myself to be able to do that with my journals and whatever. I really, this 2026, have fallen out of my journal routine. I still, of course, do my nighttime journal every night, which is just, it's the 5-year journal. It's a little bit of a summary of each day. My morning pages, I just had a bit of a routine shift and it didn't really fit in, but I'd like to bring it back. I'm about to be traveling again, and I really think I could incorporate it to my routine there. This could also kind of be like a meteor, maybe, or a comet, something like that. It was so cool to see how many people are interested in space, who enjoyed the galaxy video. I really liked making that one. It was really fun. Love to do more like that too. Let me know if you have any ideas of similar things where there's like, 5 to 10 parts of a list being like the planets or something like that. I'm turning them all into a Zen doodle. I feel like would be really fun. I kind of want to do the numbers soon, just like 0 to 9. I've done the alphabet. That was a good one. But I've been thinking about that. Come on, paint, get in there. We have a nice crevice to get up into. I think these middle sections are going to take a little doubling up, which is okay. Parmesan is stirring. Ryan is stirring. What's up, guys? Can you sense I'm almost done? I am almost done, but I'm also not yet. We still have a little time together. Then I'm going to make dinner. Salmon tonight. Not really sure how. I'm thinking maybe a bit of a creme fraiche salmon. Somehow, maybe a salmon and pea mash, like a minty, lemony. Do you like that? I haven't had that in a while. Okay, let's have a look at these here. These loops are much more quick than the ones before, so maybe I'll even come back at the end of this row. Or sorry, the next loop, and check on those. Give them a little time for paint to seep in. This would be a cool mirror too. If there's like just a little mirror bit in here, it'd be very beach house. Parmesan looks angry, which she often does when she wakes up from a nap, which, boy, do I understand. Luckily for you, Parmesan, you don't have any responsibilities tonight, except being so cute. That made her sit back down. This also kind of looks like it could be the shield of an emblem in some way. Do you know what I mean? Has a little bit of a medieval outline. I know it's not symmetrical, but just something about like this concave shape and then these bits at the end. I don't know. I see it. And yes, I see that too. Come on. Come on. Come back down here. Nice long swoop. Our shapes have really swallowed each other up as we've moved into the center of the composition. So we now have much fewer segments. Sometimes they come together and then turn into one big bump. It's funny, bump and lump are basically the same word and basically have the same meaning. Random. We'll connect there. Now this is definitely something we're going to need to go over, but I'm going to give it just a moment to settle into itself. And in the meantime, we'll go look at the one before. Where can we add some? Maybe in here, maybe in here. Otherwise, honestly, I think it looks pretty good. I might thicken these up a touch. Or I guess it originally was thicker and the paint's kind of just shrunk. Just like, look how small the anxiety now is. It's about to be extremely gone soon. Okay, so starting over here and around. This time I'm just going to do one stroke on each bit. Until we have our outline, and then I'll go in and add to it, just again for that difference in technique. Could be fun. Okay, now let's go to the one before. Well, you and I are finding out at the same time that this just doesn't really wanna. And I don't know if we can force it. I'll try a little bit longer, getting it in there. Get a really pigmented amount of paint on the brush. Oh, that's better. I don't know. I think that might be the best we got. What do you think? I think I'm happy with that. Also gonna, no, let's do one more now. Actually, I see some bits have dried in here. This is also kind of the color of seaweed, a certain kind of kelpy seaweed. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like the painting is like, no, I don't want you to go. Keep going. Sure. I definitely want to have dinner soon, though. Ryan, this would be a great night for you taking over the cooking if you knew how to do that. Ooh, I think I just did that. Oh well. Gonna let that sink in, and move on to our next little layer, which I kind of like our technique of going over the segment a few times before moving on, but I don't know if it's really accepting that. I don't know if this is fingerprint or if it's just the center of the paper is more pressed and that does something to it. Who knows? My intention when I started this piece, as you know, I have various intentions, was to just immerse myself in the materials and use that tangibility as a way to reduce any feelings of anxiety. And I feel like I've definitely accomplished that. So if there are other parts of it that aren't precise or up to scratch with other intentions I may have, such as consistency, it's okay. Oh, that was a good one. Good little smoothness. The anxiety area in the center now just looks like a little amoeba or something. Something so small. Okay, I kind of want to crisp up right there. That worked. Oh my gosh. This is so exciting. Okay, so starting here. Oh my gosh, we're really getting there, guys. Quite the feathering. Just had a vision of Bridgerton when I said feathering. I don't even watch that show. Probably should though. Wow, look at this funky little shape. So I think let's do 2 rows and then go back in and crisp up. That's what seems to make sense with this size. Anything that was in the center of this piece, any little worries and fears have just been squeezed out, uninvited. We are rid. Have we made Cassandra? We've pretty much made a Cassandra. Pretty close. Okay, this is very exciting because I think this might be our last one, which means the inside shape is this. And we're going to clean it up. And then I'm going to, oh my gosh, it's a heart. Wait. Whoa, that looks really cool. It's a heart. No way. Wow, that's a sign if I've ever seen one. Did someone need a heart? Because here it is. Wow. Well, I really enjoyed this. I love that a heart was revealed in place of the anxiety. Are you kidding? That's so cute. Oh, I feel happy. Let me lift this up a bit. So we have some lovely kind of sections and pillars. See that? Like this. It's kind of hard to see maybe from where you are, but wow, that's so crazy. I need to sign it, of course, which I will do with my little Micron 01. And once I sign it, I give it an orientation because the signature stands away. And I want to do it where the heart is like that. So I'm going to go over here into this gap, or not gap, right below it. Just do a little Lizzie. And there we are. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that this kept your anxiety at bay. Hope it inspired you, and I will be back next Thursday. I'll see you then.